look back on Mark Scheifele mid-season, Winnipeg Jets beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, so the Jets locker room celebrating like they just won the Stanley Cup because they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in the regular season. There is something to be said about, I think there's extra motivation for these teams to beat Toronto. Like, we just saw Matthew Tkachuk previewing the Boston Bruins, Florida Panthers. This guy's basically throwing shots at the Toronto Maple Leafs, like, just out of nowhere. And then you talk about coaches around the league, specifically ex-Leaf coach, Mike Babcock. Hey, Jim Montgomery, want some advice how to beat the good old Toronto Maple Leafs? Like, how nuts is that? That's what we talk about when we talk about a team that's just, whether it's the biggest market in hockey, but also just a team that everyone wants to beat. I mean, I know there was jokes about Kyle Dubas always getting, beat in terms of waiver pickups or trades or signings. I mean, I think there was actually a point there, not just Dubas, the Leafs, where teams were actually taking like direct shots and basically enjoying themselves at claiming guys off waivers from the Leafs. Like, again, maybe that's reaching a little bit, but I think my point in saying is I think there's a combination of the Leafs have basically marked themselves as this poor culture team. They are the biggest market team with the most money, most coverage across. That doesn't make people happy. And at the same time, you have management and so many other people in hockey ops that are probably getting paid less than what maybe people in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, there's just so many levels of why people might dislike the Toronto Maple Leafs, but at the same time, I mean, Jacob, this is on themselves, man. Like, poor culture, poor precedence, money being thrown like it's nothing, nobody's business, and it all comes in full circle. Guys don't like that. Like, I'm sure Brad Marchand's just getting a good old hoot through 5, 6, 7 games at how Mitch Marner's making $11 million and Marchand's making him look like a dummy out there. And I think it's getting to a point where I think other teams, other players, and other former guys are just getting a good old laugh out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, it's a running joke. 1967, 1959. Keep throwing all those years out there. They're still relevant.
Lastly, this seems like the definitely final nail in the coffin in terms of any belief towards this team. New boss comes in, Keith Pelly, in terms of the boss of MLSC. He's going to have a press conference on Friday alongside Brendan Shanahan and Treliving. So Shanaplan, he's already been president for 10 years. Sheldon Keefe, 5 years as head coach of this team. Obviously, they've only gone past the first round once in the past 8 seasons. Give me 3 moves quickly that you would make, and also percentage chance that you actually think that that's going to happen.
So yeah, right off the bat, I'll say it was a shock to me that they're coming from a united front here. I actually thought that maybe it would be just Keith Pelly and maybe Trey Living. I really think that we need to move on from this Shanna plan to, sure, call it the Pella plan or call it whatever you want to call it, because Pelly's got to come in here and make some big changes. So move number 1, Sheldon Keefe, you got to go. It's just, respect or not, it's gotten to the point where you've seen it over and over again, and the guy has to advocate for himself, but he's still talking about like process and progress with a team that should, like, it's so far past that. So Sheldon Keefe's got to go. You need a new voice. Guys like Ryan O'Reilly, players have left because they didn't want the spotlight. I also think players have left because they don't like how this team's ran. I think, like I said, people say the yacht club. I think there's core guys in this team that are running the show here behind the scenes. That's got to change. Someone's got to step foot in here, and Mike Babcock tried to do it. There's a lot of things that Babcock did that you don't agree with. Babcock tried to set things straight when Marner and those guys were young. They're more mature now. Someone's got to come in and really put their footprint in. So Keefe's got to go. Number 2, Tavares loses his captain. I think that right there has got to happen. You get to a point where you really look to your leader, and he scored the big goal to get them past the first round, but that can't be the ceiling. That cannot be the ceiling to your success. So if that's where your captain brings you, unfortunately, it's got to be the change. I've always been a huge Don Tavares fan. I've been a fan of the guy back in the Generals days, World Juniors days, all throughout the years of him being an Islander. I was always a huge Tavares fan, and I'll still advocate for the guy, but it just gets to a point where you need a new leader, you need a new voice. And number 3, and I know a lot of people out there in the hockey world are saying it's not going to be easy to get Mitch Marner to waive his no-movement clause. It's going to be a tough sell. But there should be no chance you are discussing a contract extension with this guy. There is no chance. You are continuing a poor precedent and a poor culture. So you are either trading Mitch Marner or you are publicly stating you are not re-signing this guy. It's gotten that bad, Brandon and Jacob. I honestly, seriously think it's gotten past the point of asset management and trying to get the most value from the guy to just literally straight out sending a message. You are going to drive fans away. It's time now where you either make the trade or you make a public precedent that you are not going to fall into this trap of paying tens of millions of dollars to these guys that are not performing when it counts.
John, where can fans find your content, and what are you planning on doing for the rest of the playoffs?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. You can find me Hot Take Hockey on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitter, all across the board. Definitely doing some live streams on Hot Take Hockey on YouTube. Draft lottery tomorrow night as we're recording this. And, of course, if you're looking at just playoff games the rest of the way, I'll be streaming into the offseason draft, free agency, all that good stuff. But definitely going to be still doing some coverage for the live streams, the playoffs, even without the Leafs. We're still going to do some playoff coverage.
We appreciate your time, John, and look forward to more chats in the future, hopefully on a little bit of a brighter note.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Jacob. Talk soon, guys.